When it comes to Zone of the Enders 2, it's pretty much in a league of its own. Not many high-speed robot action games out there. Because of that, I wanted to revisit it, and honestly, I barely found out that it was remastered to the PS4 some time ago. Plus, the last time I finished it was way back on the PS3, so yeah. I think it's been long enough and time for me to come back and replay it once more. But first, this is Combat Overview. In this series, I go over the general controls, the game's main mechanic or mechanics, who or what we use those tools on, and I see how it comes together. A bit more in depth, but that's what I do. Now, if you notice looking at this gameplay, we're flying all over which way in all directions, and you might think, well, how are you even moving forward but down or vice versa at the same time with just the left thumbstick and then doing all these different attacks too on top of that? Like, what's really going on here? Just one of the many pros of Zoe 2 is its pretty solid control scheme. So to start off, square is your main form of attacking. And similar to Shinobi on Genesis, depending on your distance from any enemy, your attack will be different. Up close you will slash, and far away you'll shoot. Alright, makes sense. And for the movement, triangle will have you move up, and X will have you descend. So that's actually pretty smart. Now let's add that movement into combat, because of course we have to. So when you do your slash combo, the fourth and final hit will send them flying away straight outwards. But if you end with triangle, you'll send them up, and if you end with X, you'll send them down. Same directions established for our movement. Now this is useful because if you send them into walls, floors, ceilings, just any hard surfaces really, pretty much, that'll do extra wall splat damage on top of your base combo, which is pretty damn cool. Alright, so the only face button left is circle. That's our grab, and we can use this to pick up objects like poles or pieces of a wall, square will swing it, and circle will toss it. It can also be used to block those once unblockable attacks, which is pretty neat. We can also grab enemies, which you can go for at any point during your combo, and then you can just do the same things as before. But when you throw an enemy, you'll spin them around first, hitting anyone nearby before you toss them. So yeah, the grab can be done on reaction to throw, or for quick crowd control, or to block unblockable moves, and so on. Okay, since this is a quick spacing action game, we're given another option for movement. So holding R2 will have you dash as long as you hold it, or you can just tap it for quick repositioning. Now as you do this, you'll get dash attacks, again, different depending on spacing. Holding square will auto lock onto multiple enemies to shoot little projectiles at them, and dash attack up close will have you send them flying. Useful for up close fights when you need to sidestep and punish. Now holding R2 while standing will also set up different attacks. From afar, you'll charge up this energy ball, and up close, it'll do this very powerful swipe that can even be comboed into at any point, which can break shields. This is called burst attack. So on reaction, if an enemy blocks, you can instantly open them up. But there is noticeable end lag to balance out its strength. Alright, now onto our defenses. Holding R1 will block. You can move around and it'll cover your entire body, but it cuts into your sub meter if you hit it, which I'll go into later. The cool thing is, the enemies actually counter this just as much as you counter them for blocking. You have burst attacks too, to break your guards, which will have this red aura on that attack, plus that longer windup gives that away too. So even though you won't take chip damage, you can freely move around, and it fully covers you. It still has its weaknesses. One thing to know while holding shield, pressing attack or grab or sub weapon won't cancel out of it. You need to drop your shield in order to do any action. It isn't as clunky as it sounds, honestly, but the cool thing is about blocking is that it cancels most attacks at any point, from the startup, middle of a move, or its end lag. So you can do a loop on smaller enemies to get some extra damage if you have the opening, or if there's no surfaces to send them into, and if you don't want to risk it with the burst attack since it's laggy and all. Alright, now onto our HUD. The top meter is health, and the bottom is for sub-weapons. In the left corner is what sub-weapon is currently equipped, and holding L1 you can swap them out. Each time we use a sub-weapon, it takes up a bit of our bar, and to refill it, just land hits. So some of those sub-weapons is this gauntlet, shoots out a projectile to send enemies away, sets up wall splats. There's Comet, used to break enemies' guards. Geyser will have you drop electric trap to stun enemies, which is great for crowd control. And Wisp, a grab for far off enemies, and the same stuff from there. Homing missiles, which is pretty strong since it launches a few of them and is pretty much guaranteed damage. Yeah, just a solid set of options to help out with those situational setups. But the holy grail of them all, the Vector Cannon. Has little to no practical use outside of a few moments, but it's such a hype sub weapon to have. Just like everything else so far, the enemies here are pretty well designed. We start off with Jobbers who will do a 4-hit combo, which you can just guard it since it leaves them open by the end of it. Then a more boxer type that will do fast jabs, but but will go for guard breaks way more likely if they see you guard their combo. So they're more reactionary version of the first enemy, changing up that strategy. And if you're far away from them, they'll punch this unblockable shockwave towards you. We have these tankier ones. Taking them out will spit out the regular enemy who is inside the suit, which gives them a chance to hit you back. But if you go for the burst attack instead, you'll destroy the suit and the enemy in one swoop. And if you leave them be for too long, they'll start to heal. Lastly, these jets who will shoot a little electric shots at you, and once they see you start to block them, they'll turn into a jet to rush you with this unblockable attack. And I like how if you try to block their combo, after that 4th hit they toss out, you'll think it's your turn because of what the first enemy taught us, but to mix you up, they'll do a dodge and then come back with a counter hit. So yeah, just a solid set of enemies here with options for defense and offense, which just mixes fun back and forth between them, whether you're far, up close, and so on. Also, there's times where you both clash swords. Not sure how to follow it up or any way at all, but I just mass squared to get them back to back until I hopefully win that fight. But now that I think about it, the PS2 kind of like this, huh? Kingdom Hearts 1 had this, DMC 3, I think even Berserk to counter boss attacks, and now Zoe 2. Super cool mechanic that I wish I saw more often, honestly. And of course the bosses, you already know. Just like the enemies, these bosses has fun gimmicks and patterns to them, creating different fights and strategies from each other. One is the classic react and bait them into a wall. One has you do clash parries to open them up. And of course we gotta have a rival fight throughout the entire game. And yeah, that's Zone of the Enders 2. It just nails and lives up to its created genre of high-speed robot action. Because not only do we have solid tools for fun interactions, but we have great enemy and boss designs to back that up. Plus the set pieces along the way to keep it fresh. They put you in these very unique situations that have you think about your tools and how to use them effectively. Like the second stage, I think, where it's full of tunnels. Great way to teach you the wall splat mechanic. Another one where you gotta do a little tower defense and protect the buildings while taking out the waves of enemies. So you gotta be efficient with your tools, not go crazy with tossing them everywhere. Or where you're destroying this train as you work your way up to the front. Like these are really great ideas because they're fun and works with everything we have. But there's some that go against that. Well, just one, and it doesn't last long, but there's a slow-paced, mine-avoiding section where you gotta wait for very spaced-out instructions and you slowly make mine progress.
A little bit more. Good. Move forward. Wait, stop. Correct your direction.
But yeah, that's such a small portion of the game, it just makes you appreciate everything else afterwards so damn much. And not only that, there's a lot of content in the remaster. The one thing I look at my action games is the survival mode. And yeah, we do have one with a few different maps to choose from, which give battle arena to fight in to help keep it different. Other stuff here is revisiting older chapters with your full kit, really changing up how they're played. You can also fight bosses individually or back to back. There's a versus mode and a shmup minigame as Vic Viper. Really cool stuff and just a lot to dig into for extra playtime. But the thing I found most interesting is the 2 controller settings. We have the classic or the alternative pro setup. I'd recommend with classic your first time through. It gives you the basics and like we saw, it's super intuitive for making this fast-paced mech action game work. But pro, it's really that. Because with the classic, it'll slow down time when you swap your sub-weapons. But on pro, not only do you have access to 4 slots to hot swap between on the fly, with multiple choices on each one, but it does not slow down time. So you need to know where each sub-weapon is and what they do for which enemy or for how the map is set up, as the speed is kept the same. So I ran through a few missions again with Pro after I beat the game. Like I said, you have a full kit now, so it really does make this game play and feel different with the Pro setup. This pushes your reactions and knowledge of your tools and enemies to the test. Super cool stuff. So yeah, if you're a mech fan, you gotta play this. If you're an action game fan, you gotta play this. If you're a Konami fan, you gotta play this. It's an extremely solid action game that definitely deserves to be checked out, and like I said, there's just nothing out there like Zoe 2 from what I've seen, so it just makes it even more of a gem. Alright, now, I have a plan, so hold me to it, but if you saw my Yaiba video, I said I wish I had planned October out with more Halloween themed games, right? So I decided to plan December then. And the theme is Konami action games. So we started with classic Zoe 2. Next week we're going to look at another PS2 action game, Handle Breaker. Then make our way over to 360 for Castlevania Lords of Shadow. And then to end the year, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. So yeah, it's going to be a cool month, no pun intended, but yeah. And I noticed when I was planning this, they all have this blue tone to them. So that also helps bring it all together for the season, and I'll hope to see you for this Konami-thon as we end the year.